Johnny Somali's trial verdict is in, and honestly, it was long overdue. This guy had been speedrunning karma like it was a world record attempt, and now he finally hit the game over screen. For those who somehow managed to dodge his internet plague, Johnny Somali was an IRL live streamer whose entire personality was built around being a professional jackass. He made a name for himself by harassing people, being racist, and acting like he was untouchable. He was like a cartoon villain, except way dumber and somehow even more embarrassing. But guess what? The real world doesn't work like Twitch chat. You don't get to run around being a walking hate crime and expect people to just let it slide. And now, after a long, painful streak of stupidity, he's finally facing some real consequences. Now let's talk about the biggest moment in this downfall, his latest arrest. Because this wasn't just a slap on the wrist. This wasn't some oops, I made a mistake situation. This was the kind of arrest where you start mentally preparing for life without Wi-Fi. So here's how it went down. Johnny Somali was in Thailand, which, by the way, was already a terrible decision because he was already on thin ice in Asia. After pissing off Japan to the point where they threw him in jail and then deported him, you'd think he would maybe lay low. Maybe stop making an absolute fool of himself on foreign soil. But nope, that's not how Johnny's single brain cell operates. While in Thailand, he continued his same dumbass behavior, harassing people, being loud and obnoxious, acting like he was invincible. And the thing about Thailand is they don't play around with foreigners who act like idiots. This isn't some streamer apology video situation. This is real life consequences. Eventually, his antics caught up to him and Thai authorities arrested him. But this time, it wasn't just some minor charge where he could laugh it off and walk free. This time, he was facing serious legal trouble. And boom, he started crying about it. Johnny Somali, the same guy who spent months mocking and disrespecting people, suddenly wanted sympathy. He went from I'm untouchable to please help me real quick. He started pleading for people to support him, acting like he was some innocent victim. Bro, nobody feels bad for you. You spent your entire career being a public nuisance, and now that real life consequences have finally hit, you're playing the victim? Get real. So there he was, sitting in Thai custody, realizing that actions actually have consequences. And if you thought his downfall was already satisfying, it gets even better. See, Johnny Somali built his entire persona on being loud, obnoxious, and fearless. He acted like he was some untouchable internet villain, a real-life GTA character who could just say whatever, do whatever, and walk away without a scratch. But the second he got locked up, he turned into a completely different person. In one of his desperate attempts to get out of trouble, he started whining online, trying to get people to help him. He was pleading for support, acting like he was being unfairly targeted. My guy, you did this to yourself. This isn't some government conspiracy. This is just your brain failing to process reality. And the best part, nobody gave a shit. The internet, instead of rallying behind him, just laughed and watched the fireworks. Because at this point, Johnny Somali had burned every single bridge possible. No one respected him, no one supported him, and absolutely no one was going to step in to save him. And then came the moment that sealed his fate, his guilty plea. Now, this is where things got really funny. After months of acting tough, after all the boasting and posturing, Johnny Somali did what all these wannabe badasses do when reality slaps them in the face. He folded immediately. He wasn't about that life. He wasn't some hardcore outlaw who was ready to stand by his actions. Nah, he crumbled faster than a cheap lawn chair. And let's be honest, pleading guilty was probably the smartest thing he's ever done. Because if he tried to fight this, he was looking at even more jail time and an even uglier sentence. So, in a rare moment of self-awareness, he finally admitted what the entire world already knew. He was guilty as hell. At this point, Johnny Somali's entire career, his entire persona, was shattered. This was a guy who built his brand on being untouchable, on being that guy who never backed down. But the second shit got real, he folded like a house of cards. And what makes it even funnier is that even after all this, even after facing jail time, deportation, and worldwide humiliation, there were still a few people out there trying to defend him. Like, what exactly are you defending? His right to be an idiot, his right to harass random people, his right to embarrass himself on an international level. Johnny Somali isn't some misunderstood rebel. He's just a dumbass who finally ran out of luck. And watching him crash and burn in real time is one of the most satisfying internet moments of the year. Johnny Somali's story had fully transformed from a cringe-inducing livestream disaster to a full-blown legal nightmare. And honestly, couldn't have happened to a more deserving guy. Now, let's talk about the biggest L of his career, his international bans. Because Johnny didn't just get kicked out of a country, he got banned from multiple countries like he was some kind of real-life supervillain. First, we had Japan, the country that finally said, enough is enough, and threw him in jail. This was a guy who spent months harassing Japanese citizens, storming trains, disrupting businesses, and throwing around racist garbage like it was his full-time job. The locals hated him. Authorities warned him multiple times, but Johnny kept doubling down like he had some kind of diplomatic immunity. Then Japan said, all right, bet. They arrested him, locked him up for weeks, and then did the one thing that permanently ruined his whole operation, deported him and banned him from ever coming back. Now, for any normal person, this would be a massive wake-up call. Like, if an entire country looks at you and says, we never want to see your dumbass again, maybe it's time to rethink your life choices. But no, not Johnny Somali. He took it as a challenge. Instead of learning his lesson, he just moved his circus act to Thailand. And if there's one thing Johnny Somali is good at, it's making terrible decisions. But what he didn't realize was that Thailand don't play around. It didn't take long before he was back at it, harassing locals, acting like an idiot, and live streaming his own downfall in real time. The dude had all the self-awareness of a brick wall. And surprise, surprise, Thailand wasn't having it either. Thai authorities arrested him, and this time, it was even worse than Japan. Because now, he wasn't just facing deportation.
Tut so, als wäre Voss sein Vorgesetzter. Ist da jemand? Schießt schon! Ah!